Now that you understand about M.C. Escher and his artwork, let's learn how to create a tessellation. First, you're going to draw a line on your square. The line needs to go from one corner, wiggle around, and go to an adjacent corner. Be careful not to make these wiggles too small because you're going to have to cut on them. So you know how hard it is to cut tiny things with scissors. And you can't throw any of this square away. All of this square has to stay here. So it's not like you can go back and trim it up. That will mess it up. You'll have to start all over again. So go from one corner, wiggle around any way you want to the next corner. Alright, and I'm going to turn it this way just to make it a little easier to see. Now I cut right along my line. If you find that some of your wiggles are too tiny, skip them. Just like I skipped this wiggle right here, I just went right through it. It's still an interesting line, but it's not quite as difficult to cut. I cannot come in here and trim this because then I have trash, and there can be no trash. We need every piece of this. Alright, so here's what it looks like. Now you're going to take your finger, put it on your little piece that you cut, and slide it to the other side. The reason I say you need to slide it is because it needs to stay pointing the same direction. So here we go. Pretend my finger is on this, and it's sliding around to the other side. It didn't switch directions. This little part right here always is pointing down. Always pointing down, pointing down, pointing down. Now, see how this space, this line right here, exactly matches this line. My wave is curving towards this direction. My wave is curving towards this direction. This wave is going up towards that corner. This one is also going up towards that corner. That's what you need. And you're going to take a couple of pieces of tape and tape it together. Don't let the tape come off the edge. You're going to need to trace this shape, and if you have tape coming off the edge, it's going to mess up your shape. It doesn't matter if the tape comes way inside. It just can't go off the edge. Next, you're going to draw another line. Also from one corner to the corner beside it. Wiggle that around a bit. Now this time it's a little tricky because you have to really watch where your corners of your square are because you've cut it up. It's not a square anymore. So see, I went from this exact corner exactly to this corner. It's really important that you go all the way to the corners. Both in this one, we're going to back up a bit, and also in this one. See how it's right to the corner, right to the corner. Alright, let's go back down. And now I've cut on that one. I didn't exactly get my line, but that's okay. That's not important. Cutting exactly on your line is not important. You just want an interesting line, and you don't want to throw any of this away. Now you're going to place your finger on it and slide it on the table. Don't pick it up, because if you pick it up, it may get turned upside down or backwards. Just put your finger on it and slide it around. You're going to slide it to this side right here. Let's try that. I put an arrow on it. You can see right here there's an arrow. It's always going to point in this direction. It doesn't flip. It just slides around. Now I've got it on the other side, and I need to make sure the corner of the little shape lines up with the corner of my square that's left over right there. Okay, now we're going to put tape on that. Make sure your tape does not come off the edges. And now we have a shape. And it's a pretty interesting shape. I'm happy with this shape. If you're not happy with your shape, you can start over again. It's not a large piece of paper, but don't take too much time because you're going to need the time to do the rest of the project. This is the fast part of the project. Next, you're going to get a scrap piece of paper and you're going to trace your shape several times in different directions. Turn it around and look at your shape and see what your imagination can find inside of it. Alright, so in this shape right here, when I turned it sideways, it looked like an elephant's head. I'll show you. It looks more like this. So here are the ears of the elephant, and I thought this looked like a trunk. So I drew the head, I drew the trunk, gave him a couple of eyes and a smile, little hairs up here because it looked kind of boring in this area. And I drew inside the ears, like a little soft area inside. He even has the little holes here. I'm not sure they have those holes, but I liked it on here. You want your shape to turn into an interesting design. So consider patterns, textures, wrinkles, things like this, hair, eyebrows. Those things can make it more interesting. Alright, let's see another shape. Aha, here's my elephant. I turned this one into a goldfish. I drew the body inside. You can kind of see here's my shape right here. And here's the shape I traced. I drew inside for the body, and then I divided the fin and the tail up. I added a pattern of like ripples in his fin and tail. I added another fin because fish have a fin on the side. I think it's called a lateral fin. He needed a gill, an eye, a mouth, and then I put some little scales, just suggestions of scales. I could have put stripes on him or spots on him, something to make him more interesting. Alright, this one, you can see my shape again. It's the same shape. Here's where the trunk of the elephant was, but now it's become the ear of a dog. And this little bit's his little tongue sticking out. And I drew another ear over here and a collar. I'm not crazy about this one. I think it looks like he's got a horn, like he's a unidog, unicorn dog, or dog corn. So I'm going to keep searching. The last one I did, you can see my shape right here. Here's the elephant's trunk. But now it's a tie and a collar for kind of a goblin looking guy. I changed this little part right here into a nose. And here's the eye and the mouth. And then I gave him a pattern of curves in his hair so that he's more interesting. I could also put like little spots on the tie or stripes on the tie to make that more interesting. I think this is my favorite one. I like the elephant a lot too, but I really like the little guy. Now, one thing you can't do, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Here are some from past students. This is the one he selected. He liked the elephant. He put a watch on him just to make him more interesting. And he's got a couple of neat designs here. Don't write words on it. He didn't use this one partially because of the words. But he just made up a little monster guy. Here's a little dog. This is all with the same shape. Here's a Grim Reaper with his pinky finger up. There's a little ninja guy, I guess. I'm not sure. And he had another elephant over here he was trying out. But he added, see the hat? He can't add a hat. It has to stay the same. This one was a problem because he's got like 3 people in one. Don't try to do that. it's fine for one shape, but when you have to make a lot of these, and you're going to have to make a lot of these, it gets very difficult to add everything in the same way, in the same direction, the same shape. Ignore Rambo here, he just drew him in there. This was a student who liked to draw cartoons a lot. Okay, here's another student. She did a fish out of it, and actually these are pointing the same way. Here's the point, here's the point, here's a little curvy point, there's the curvy point. And she made a face with hers as well. Here's one that's like an evil bat head, maybe. I thought this one was pretty funny. This is a pig, like he's scared, and he's sitting on his little bottom there, and his back is behind the pig behind him. So his back isn't all wiggly. This is the pig behind him's hooves and mouth. See the little hooves? Okay, what you can't do is have background. So this is my shape again. Here's the elephant and the fish, the dog's tongue, and part of the man's nose. This one, I kind of thought this looked like two ears and a big moose nose, neck, and back, and I put a mountain in the background. With tessellations, you cannot have a background. A tessellation is totally the shape. I mean, the shape becomes a total object. So no background. This one will not work. It will not look good. So don't do it. I will let you have the faces. That you could do a whole animal, or you could just do a face, because when you repeat the faces, I don't have an example yet. You'll see with mine. When you repeat the faces, it makes it look like they're overlapping a little bit, like there's another body there, but you just can't see it because there's faces. It's kind of a compromise I made, rather than make you try to fit a whole animal or monster or thing inside of your shape. My shape could have become like a ship with water and waves around it. Maybe this was the sail. Maybe a pirate ship. It doesn't have to be an animal. I just find that animals and heads are much easier. Okay, you're going to get a larger piece of white paper, and you're going to trace your shape on the paper. Then you're going to line your shape up inside the holes of the shapes you've already traced, and you're going to trace it again. Make sure not to overlap these. So I'm pushing it in there. And you can see I know I'm leaving a little space here. I want you to be able to see that this line matches this edge, but I would push this right up next to the edge before I trace it. You don't want to leave spaces between the shapes, and you don't want to overlap this shape with another shape. You got to fit it in like a puzzle. See, they're all the same size. You're going to go right off the edge of the paper. So here's a bit that I had not done. I fit the shape inside, and I found, oh look, I don't have to draw anything else because all of these things are off the paper. Here I am finished tracing my shape. You can see the shape fills up the whole piece of paper. It goes all the way to the edge. Not all the shapes are all the way on the paper, but that's okay. They can go off the edge. I'm going to do the man, so I've got a little bit of a nose. I find it's easier to add all the noses because my hand gets used to doing them, and I get them closer to the same. It doesn't really matter. If you want to do one whole person, put the eye, or animal, put everything inside of one shape first and then move to the next shape, that'd be fine. It's up to you. So here is the nostrils. I added the little nostril. Then I added a mouth. Added the mouth, and I added the hair and the ear. I added the eye. Then I put the little ties in. Can you find the place that I didn't add the tie, that I forgot? You're going to find that you miss things, but just make sure you go back and fix them later on. I've got the hair in here. Added that in. And a collar. And I still forgot that little tie. But don't worry, I'll go back in and add it. Okay, see how everyone is about the same. I'm not going to pull out a ruler and measure your eyes, but at a glimpse, it needs to look like everything is the same. Now let's talk what you do next. Talk about what you do next. You're going to trace this with a Sharpie. It makes it much more clear, easy to see the details. Then you can color it. We're not going to use markers. I think this one was a really nice shape, but the marker really messed it up. You can see all those lines and it's distracting. This one, on the other hand, she's not finished with it when I took a picture of it, but you can see that the crayons are working really well. You may use crayons, you may use colored pencils. The crayons are great for bigger areas. The colored pencils are great for the small areas. This student had not finished. She did it like this first and decided that the mane was not showing up a lot. And you can see, even though she's colored it brown, light brown, it looks white right here. There's not a lot of difference between the white of the slide and the white or light brown in the mane. So she went back and she colored it harder. This looks much better here. It's much easier to see here than there. Okay, have a great time doing your tessellations.